It's looking very close to official that Kathleen Kennedy will retire at the end of 2025. I've got a lot of opinions on that, so let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Let me know, what do you think about the news that it seems extremely likely that Kathleen Kennedy will actually retire at the end of the year? Now, for years, there's been rumors, speculation, leaks that Kathleen Kennedy is going to retire, but almost all of that is coming out of a very specific stream of movie news that have pretty obvious bias against Kathleen Kennedy, Disney, current Lucasfilm, all that fun stuff. And so I never put much stock into any of it because it was telling people essentially what their audience wanted to hear. This was reported last night at like 2 a.m, and almost every single major trade has run it. This is not rumor mill. This is not leaks. This is being reported by Variety, by Empire, The Hollywood Reporter. That's the degree to which this has substance to the reports. So there's not actually a ton of information, but the Lucasfilm boss has told associates she plans to retire by the end of 2025, Puck reported Monday night. Reps for Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm were not immediately available to comment. This is coming from Hollywood Reporter. These are not people inclined to just run with a story like this, in particular about a studio like Disney, unless they really thought this was true. Variety had a bit of a pushback on it, but not really even that much. She intends to retire after her current contract ends, according to a source with knowledge of her plans. A separate source close to Kathleen Kennedy, however, dismissed the initial report by Puck as pure speculation and said nothing has been decided. So, if you kind of go through all of these, everyone felt confident to run the piece. Even Variety felt comfortable to run the piece with the headline, she's exiting at the end of this year. They have a sentence in there saying, hey, we talked to someone that said nothing's decided yet. Everybody else, the big guns, the people that have very deep connections to Disney and do not want to step too much on Disney's toes, so they're going to be careful what they do. They ran this report saying she plans to leave at the end of the year. And this isn't terribly surprising. There were quite a few rumors, murmurs last year about how she's looking to retire, but the speculation was that she wanted to do so kind of on a high note. She wanted a big win to close out her tenure at Lucasfilm and was waiting for her Rey movie to come out to kind of close out her time at Star Wars. Even some tweets I read. I have been glued to my laptop for the past hour, so I was a bit late posting this. But yeah, some of us have heard whispers of this since last year. And that, like, those were out there. So the fact that it's a little bit more definitive now is not surprising, in particular because it also seems like that Rey movie is another one of these projects that's getting delayed, postponed, kind of like every other movie associated with her besides Mando and Grogu, which unfortunately kind of is her legacy. That she was a legendary executive producer. She was the person that George Lucas personally picked to run Lucasfilm when he left and sold Lucasfilm to Disney. He picked her. George Lucas did. You have to keep in mind, Kathleen Kennedy has been working in Hollywood since 1979. And almost that entire time, she was working with the A-list. She's got a lot of really good producer credits on Steven Spielberg films and many other A-list directors. That she was someone that the best of the best trusted to help execute their plans to bring their creative visions to life. She was great at that. She could get stuff done. And so much so that when George Lucas, he wanted to handpick someone that he trusted with his baby, that he's selling for over $4 billion, it was Kathleen Kennedy. Nothing can take that, nothing about what she did at the job takes away from the fact that she had a tremendous resume as a producer and was trusted by George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. All of that is true. Equally true, I think she's done a terrible job running Lucasfilm. That there are absolute wins in there. The Force Awakens is the highest grossing domestic film in the United States, and it has been for now almost 10 years. That no other movie in the United States has made as much money as that film. And it did it 10 years ago, and not Endgame, anything like that. That's a gigantic win. And then the film made over $2 billion globally. Huge win. Mandalorian, big win. My 6-year-old has like 1,000 Grogu stuffies, and she has the pajamas and everything. Huge win, hit show for whole families, sold a lot of toys and merch. There have been wins. But her job is to build the franchise, build the excitement, get momentum for the franchise, and recruit and keep talent. It's kind of her job. And like, of course, there's more to it than that, and how, build revenue and sell toys and stuff. Like, there's other things to it, I understand. But at the core of how do you sell toys, you build momentum for the fandom. How do you build momentum? Recruit good talent and keep them. It gets people excited. And I've said this many times before, that over the last 5 years, I've utterly stopped caring whenever they announce a new Star Wars movie. Because I just don't care. Because I don't believe it anymore. And I haven't believed it for 5 years. 5 years straight of, I don't know that I believe that's going to happen. To the point that I won't even make videos when they announce new Star Wars movies because it's just like, it's nothing. Let's go back in time. When they announced that Lucasfilm was being sold to Disney, I was working at a church at the time, got on my computer and says, George Lucas sells to Disney, new Star Wars movie. I started like running through the hallways, like telling, did you hear they're doing a new Star Wars movie? They're doing a new Star Wars movie. Now, there were more elements to that made it exciting. Contrast that with, I don't believe or care anymore when they say that fill-in-the-blank person is going to do a Star Wars movie. Because I just don't think it's going to happen. Because they've greenlit so many projects. They've announced so many projects. They've said, we're doing a movie with Lord and Miller. We're doing a movie with Colin Trevorrow. We're doing a movie with Josh Trank. We're doing a movie with the Game of Thrones people. We're doing a movie with Patty Jenkins. We're doing a movie with Taika Waititi. Kevin Feige's working on a movie. And you can keep going on and on and on and on of these movies they announced, and they never made them. That's one of her core jobs, is to recruit and keep talent. And she repeatedly recruited people and something fell apart. And these were announced projects. So many announced, like she stood on it, like she had Patty Jenkins walking with in front of a jet and holding, like, we're going to do Top Gun in the world of Star Wars, and my dad was a jet pilot. They filmed the whole video. Movies not happening. It was like almost 5 years ago they announced that. That's one of her key jobs, and she's failed so badly at it. And then, of course, the other side to it is the ability to build the franchise, expand the brand, build momentum. I think it's fair to say that Force Awakens was always going to be a unique event. That at that point in time, we hadn't had a Star Wars movie in 10 years. So first Star Wars movie in 10 years, first live action Star Wars in 10 years. Yeah, we had Clone Wars. There was Star Wars in there, but it was like a show. First live action Star Wars, continuing the story after the original trilogy. And to some extent, we didn't know how much, but we're bringing back old characters. We're going to see Han, Leia, Luke, Chewie for the first time 35 years. That's a big deal. And so, of course, Force Awakens was always going to be an inflated event because it had all that other stuff beyond the film itself. So the fact that that was the highest grossing domestic film, it is credit to her that she released that film, but also it was always going to be that way. And the fact that there were domestic drops from that event is not surprising. But the returns only did this. They only went down. And then they stopped making movies. And that's a problem. Where you get to Force Awakens, there's a drop-off, but more importantly, the fandom is split. It was a polarizing film. Instead of building momentum, getting excitement, expanding the brand, and doing all this fun, cool stuff, it divided the fans. And as much as people want to say that, oh, they criticize Force Awakens for being too derivative of New Hope, and then they try something new and different, and all of a sudden they get mad. The fans are mad they did something different. Well, Last Jedi borrows very heavily on plot levels, very heavily from Empire Strikes Back. It's doing the same thing that Force Awakens did. It's also derivative of the original trilogy. But I think it's derivative, it's fresh and new in all the wrong ways that are going to alienate fans. And there's too big of a jump in character arcs, of course, with Luke, that maybe you love it. Like, a lot of people love that film. It does absolutely have its fans. But they made a movie that split the audience, and they've never recovered from that. They've never fully been able to come back. I mean, Mandalorian helped, but they split the audience. And then they looked at the reaction and they did this reactionary monstrosity that is Rise of Skywalker. That's just like, what are you doing here? And they bought Star Wars for $4 billion, trusted Kathleen Kennedy with it, and she didn't actually have a storytelling vision. And this is where you run into the problem in all of this. Is like, she is a get stuff done person. That visionary tells me what to go do, and I'll go do it. But she's not the visionary herself. She's not a storyteller herself. She needs someone to tell her the vision. And when you don't have that, what do you end up doing? You start chasing after big names. So who did she recruit all throughout the last decade? Whoever had a big hit, exciting thing. Whoever was the flash in the pan. J.J. Abrams reignited Star Trek. Josh Trank had Chronicle. Colin Trevorrow had Jurassic World. The Game of Thrones guys had Game of Thrones. And so we're just chasing after whoever has a big thing. Not who fits the vision, who has a vision, who has a story. Do their ideas for Star Wars line up with our idea? Are they compatible with one another? She's not doing any of that because it's not story-based. It's not vision-based. It's like, who's a hit? Who's an exciting headline? It was all that, and that's all it ever was. And they didn't have a clear goal for where they were heading. And it's like they're rewriting it, reworking it, everything as they went along. I've said it many times before. It seems like each movie in this trilogy of films felt like it's actively antagonistic towards the previous movie in the series. Well, that's what happens when you don't have a vision. And one person writes something and you pass it off to someone else who picks up and they bring their own vision idea for the characters and everything like that. And you bring someone else in that has their own ideas and vision for what, like, you do that, you get a mess because she's not a visionary. She's never been a visionary. That's never been her skill set. That's never been the thing that she's good at. And then you throw in the mix Solo. Like, the idea of a Han Solo movie is not terrible. You could see why there'd be interest there, but they hire Lord and Miller. And then they're surprised that when you hire Lord and Miller, the guy's known for the Lego movie, like hyperactive, this wild, crazy energy, and you have them doing a script from Lawrence Kasdan, and they're surprised that this isn't a pairing matched made in heaven, that this went badly. Like, are you stupid? What did you think Lord and Miller were going to do? What movie did you think they were going to make? And why would you think they would match up with the guy that wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark? Like, it makes no sense. But it's like, let's get the guy that's like classic Star Wars and we'll bring the fresh new people in. It's a bad idea, but it's all great headlines. And that's what so much of this looks like to me. Someone that does not know storytelling, doesn't have a vision. There's not this grander arc of what she's trying to accomplish. And so it's just so scattershot. And when you're scattershot, it's tough to develop those projects. It's tough to build momentum. You start fragmenting your audience. You start doing all this stuff. You're chasing after random things. So Mandalorian is a hit. It plays out its story, and then you sabotage your own show and your own continuity by having you undo the end of season 2 of Mandalorian on a different show, Book of Boba Fett, so he can come back in season 3 and kills the show entirely. It's just malpractice. Like, I'm sure they just wanted to sell more toys. So like, we can't get rid of Grogu. We want to sell toys. And they killed their show. Just horrible storytelling, horrible oversight, horrible decision-making. And it feels like this top-down crap of trying to sell toys, trying to guide things without any vision for how stories actually work. There's I believe it's the Peter principle in business, where in any situation, if you're good at your job, you'll get promoted to the point in time where you're bad at your job. What makes you really good at this job does not mean you're qualified or great at the next job. And if you keep doing this, eventually you get promoted outside of your skill set and your talent area. So this is basically the whole plot of the TV show The Office, that Michael Scott was a great salesman. And so he got promoted to the manager, and he's not a good manager. And everything that made him good as a salesman makes him a really bad manager. Kathleen Kennedy, really great as a producer, really great as executive producer, really great as the number 2 person to a visionary. That doesn't mean she has any of the skills required to run Lucasfilm. It does, like, just Peter principled herself, just whoop, promoted to the point in time where suddenly she was really bad at her job and can't build momentum, can't keep and recruit and keep talent, and she has no vision for Star Wars. We can't like we keep greenlighting movies and none of them get made. And we don't think any of them are going to get made. Doesn't feel like a part of anything greater. Everything she says about what she's trying to do just feels lost and confused. And that's what Star Wars has turned into. And that's going to be her legacy. Like, some people are like, why is she retiring? Well, she's in her 70s. She's probably just retiring because she wants to retire, but also like probably looks at it because I either retire now or I'm stuck in this thing for 5 more years and I guess I'll just retire. But I don't know how she's kept her job. Like, legitimately, if like you can look at a couple of these big wins, you go, Force Awakens, look how much money it made. You go, but wasn't it always going to do that? How was that her? That was George Lucas. Like, she inherited an easy win. And she goes from easy win of that to just 3 years later, you get Solo, which lost a ton of money. Like, in a very short period of time, went from biggest of all time to we lost money. That's a really bad trajectory. And then shortly after that, we stopped making movies. Disney has to have an opinion on that. That's what I'm confused. Like, how does Disney like allowing this to keep going on and keep allowing these like polarizing, divisive projects that are just like alienating more and more of the fan base and just no ability to pull people together? Just none of that whatsoever in how she talks about it, what she greenlights, the way that nothing is pulling people together anymore. That's her job. And she can't even hold on to talent. She can't make an announcement that gets people excited anymore because we don't trust her or them anymore. That's disappointing. And that's where we've been for quite a while. So many of us have been saying she needs to go for a long time because she is bad at this job. She was great at her last job, was great at it for 30 years, not so great at the current job that she has. Now, final closing thoughts on all of this. Does this give me hope for Star Wars? Not a ton, because I think Disney is a big part of the problem. How much so? How much is her incompetence in this job? How much of it is Disney's micromanaging, the cherry picker, whatever it was? How much is whoosy whatsy? I don't know, but I don't think Disney's in a great place right now. And you can see that in the output of Marvel as well as Pixar. They're not in their best little run. All of their studios have had a pretty rough last several years. All of them feel like they're creatively struggling. That's almost certainly because there's something broken up top that's being pushed down through the system, and you're not getting creative highs, and they're just churning out too much stuff, too much quantity instead of quality. Hopefully they're trying to fix that, but until I see them actually fixing that and I see the results of that, I'm skeptical of Disney. So whoever they bring in, they're still in a broken system, and I don't know who that person is. One of the tweets I brought up says, her replacements are exactly who you think they're going to be. So was that Dave Filoni and Favreau? I guess are those the obvious ones we're supposed to think it's going to be? And should I be excited for that? I'm not. I'm not at all excited for Dave Filoni and Favreau taking over. Because you can look at the things they've done that were great. They've got that show's great, and then they've got something else where you go, that was not great. And they're working in the same system. In this system, they put out something really bad. I've never been on the Filoni train. Like, he's done stuff I've liked, but the people that are, nobody gets Star Wars like Filoni. I'm not that guy at all. Like, well, he's picked by George Lucas. Kind of. Kind of. He was not the person that, George Lucas picked Kathleen Kennedy, and he didn't pick Kathleen Kennedy and Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni, you're the creative person. Kathleen, you're the business person. They didn't do that. I think his stories feel very television, and it's proven me that he can do big, massive Star Wars. I haven't seen that yet. I've seen some good television, but good television is not sweeping epic space drama, space opera. I need to see more from him. And then Favreau has always been way hit or miss. He's done a lot of movies I love, and then he gets creatively burnt out. He literally made a movie about it called Chef. He got burned out by doing these big studio films, Iron Man 2 and Cowboys and Aliens. So he had to go off and make a small film that's about this big chef being burned out by the system, and that has to go off and do something creative for himself. And he does that. It's great. And then he does Jungle Book, and he does Mandalorian. It's great. And then it's like he gets burned out, and he feels empty now. I don't trust him. He gets these systems grind him, and you get the great thing, and then they just keep going, man, keep going, and squeeze every last drop of creativity out of him, and he's spent. I have no idea who they should put in charge. I'm almost kind of part of the problem. Kathleen Kennedy did a bad job of keeping and recruiting talent, and Disney is kind of a mess and running things poorly. It doesn't make it easy to spot who should take over. So, Star Wars means a great deal to me. I have a son that is now reaching kind of like peak, middle school, high school. It would be great if he was able to have some awesome Star Wars when he's in high school. That'd be cool. I don't know that I'm hopeful at the moment. I'm not optimistic. I think getting Kathleen Kennedy, her leaving, opens the door for change, for things to get better. It does open a door. Things aren't working, and they haven't been working. So if you want to fix that, you got to change something. She's leaving. That's a big change. That's a win. Hopefully it gets better. We'll see what happens. Anyway, you guys join me down below. Let me know what you think about it. And keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.